The METZ QLED TV is a budget-friendly LED LCD TV designed to deliver decent performance for everyday viewing, particularly in a kitchen, bedroom or other second room. Now, before we dive in, let's manage some expectations. This isn't your enthusiast-grade, image purist dream machine, so at under £500, is it any good? Hello, I'm Phil Hinton, and for over 2 decades, I've been immersed in the glorious world of TV and AV, testing, calibrating, reviewing, you name it, I've probably done it. And I'm also certified by the ISF, THX and PVA. And today, we're looking at a TV that's very much aimed at the mass market, and likely your second room. It's the METZ MQE7600 QLED TV. If you want the full in-depth breakdown, then head over to AVForums. We've got a review that is full of measurements, graphs, and all the details tech-wise that you need. Plus, we've got an incredible community of AV enthusiasts, and if you've got questions, they've got the answers for them. So head over and join up as a member to one of the largest AV and hi-fi communities online. And if you enjoy our reviews and the AV Forums community, don't forget to show us some love. Like the video, subscribe to the channel and spread the word. Your support keeps us going and it helps us make even more of these video reviews. First impressions, design-wise, the METZ 7600 looks pretty good. METZ is a German manufacturer since 1938 and it's given this TV a slick gunmetal bezel and a central stand, which gives it the appearance of higher quality materials than what's actually being used. It's largely plastic, which keeps the weight down, and it's easy to assemble, but it does feel cheap and cheerful. The remote control is a highlight here. It's designed well and it fits nicely in the hand, and it has all the direct access keys you'd want for TiVo, Freely and streaming apps like Netflix. Around the back we've got sideways mounted connections, and these include a AV-in jack, RF antenna, 2 USB ports, 3 HDMI 2.0 ports, one with EARC, there's an optical digital out and a LAN port. Now, let's talk picture quality and measurements, and this is where we really need to keep that budget TV context in mind. Out of the box, we always measure the most accurate preset, and on the METZ, that's movie mode. There is no filmmaker mode available. Unfortunately, the grayscale results in movie mode are, well, pretty poor. We saw an obvious yellow tint to whites due to a deficit of blue as the image got brighter, and the gamma has an S-curve that's just too bright from 30% stimulus onwards, and our delta E errors were well over the visible threshold. Rec 709 HD colour gamut was also off, with tracking that didn't match the standard, especially for secondary colours like cyan and magenta and an oversaturated red. My feedback here to METZ would be to really work on improving the out-of-the-box image accuracy for SDR. This is not an HDR TV, and we'll get into that in a second. The vast majority of people are going to be watching over-the-air TV or streaming services and so on in SDR. So if METZ could improve that, then that would be great. But you might be thinking, well, can't you calibrate the TV? Well, here's the kicker. The calibration controls, while they are present in the menu for grayscale, CMS and so on, they just simply don't work as they should. And it seems the image processor is seriously underpowered for making these types of adjustments. And honestly, for a TV at this price point and the target market, it's probably unlikely that anybody would pay for a professional calibration anyway. But if you're a manufacturer and you include settings in the menus, then we would advise METZ to make sure that these things work as they are intended. Moving on to HDR and high dynamic range, and while METZ supports the HDR10, HLG and Dolby Vision standards, it's crucial to understand that this is not an HDR TV. Peak brightness is under 300 nits, which just isn't enough to deliver a true HDR image. It will play back the HDR compatible content, but it simply can't produce the brightness and dynamic range that's required for that. Tone mapping for HDR content is also a little bit of a mixed bag. It can be too dark at the lower end and then hard clips at its peak capabilities and blows most things out. While this gives a perception of a punchy image, it's not a true high dynamic range experience at all. For HDR10 and HLG content, I found that setting dynamic tone mapping on worked a lot better than using static, as it adjusts the TV's capabilities rather than trying to strictly follow the HDR standards. And while it's not accurate, it does make the experience that little bit better. And Dolby Vision does look decent thanks to the use of dynamic metadata, although it's still lacking real dynamic range. But let's be honest, most purchasers of this TV are unlikely to be watching 4K Blu-rays or high-end HDR content anyway. However, like I say, if you're advertising HDR, you need to make sure that the TV does perform to a certain level. So how does it perform with real-world SDR use, particularly for second rooms and being a workhorse at doing that? Screen uniformity is what you would expect from a global dimming LED LCD TV. It has a lighter centre and darker edges to the panel. DSE, or dirty screen effect, wasn't a major issue, but I did notice some trailing to pixels, which can be a little bit distracting, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Upscaling performance was reasonable but a little bit soft, and motion had some slight judder with 24 frames per second content, and frame skips were visible as well with 50Hz broadcast, and this is due to the fact that this is a 60Hz VA panel and it has low powered processing. The matte screen used is effective at diffusing light, which is great in well lit rooms, and it helps combat reflections. However, as always, correct positioning of your TV away from light sources that fall directly on the screen will give you the best picture quality. Black levels are good in a normally well lit room, but in the dark you will start to see common LCD issues like navy blues and greyish blacks. Colours can look natural and bold, but there's a real lack of overall accuracy, with a slight warm yellowish tint to skin tones. As a gaming TV, it's also a little bit hit and miss. It uses a 60Hz panel, so that's your maximum frame rate at 4K, though it did accept a 1080 120 signal. Input lag was a decent 15.4 milliseconds for 4K 60, but you won't find the advanced gaming features of the higher end sets on the market, and the HDMI inputs are strictly 2.0 18 gigabits per second. Sound quality is functional for everyday use, and the light plastic chassis means that the integrated two 10-watt speakers just aren't very high fidelity, but dialogue is clean and sharp and easy to hear. Push the bass too hard though and you'll hear the frame rattle a little bit. As with most TVs at this price point, a soundbar would be a really good upgrade if audio quality is a priority. The set also runs TiVo OS and a Smart TV system, which is functional, but we did find it a little bit sluggish. And there's also the inclusion of the UK TV services via Freely, which will also appeal to a very wide audience in the UK looking for a budget TV. Wrapping things up, the METZ MQE7600 QLED TV performs exactly as you would expect at this market segment and price point. It's a solid option for second room TV, delivering natural, colourful and largely inoffensive picture quality, especially for SDR content from services like TiVo and Freely in a well-lit living room. It's not accurate, and it's certainly not an HDR TV, but that's okay because it's not trying to be all of those things. And all of the competition at this level of the market perform in a very similar fashion. The main thing that did hamper our experience was the processing involved, which could be quite laggy and slow, and we did encounter a few error messages within the Smart TV system during use. Obviously, your mileage may vary on that front with a different sample. Overall, if you need a functional, attractive and budget-friendly TV for your kitchen or bedroom, and your expectations are aligned with its market positioning and functionalities and drawbacks, then the METZ MQE7600 is probably worth considering. As always, remember to head to AVForums. We have the full review over there, including measurements taken from the panel, looking at HDR in a little bit more detail and the SDR performance and so on. If you want all those details, you'll find those in the review. And of course, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more of these budget level TV reviews to see what you get at different price points. If it's interesting to you, then we'll certainly consider making those videos. If you found this video useful, then don't forget to give it a like, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you would, for more reviews coming very, very soon. I'm Phil Hinton, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.